Hello, Bambaji here with another gate transit. We are moving into gate 46 on the 20th of September at 1846. We move into gate 46, which is called pushing upward. It's the gate of the determination of the self. Let me show you where it is. There we go. It's in the G center, as you can see, gate 46 there. So we are at the midpoint of the quarter of duality. Let me show you on this picture. You can see duality started in gate 7, which is sort of, as you're looking at this picture, it's about 4 o'clock on that, if you look at that as a clock. And gate 46 is at 3 o'clock. And this is the midpoint of the quarter of duality. So we are in a time where the days are all of equal length. It's the equinox. The equinox is in a couple of days' time, actually. It's a tipping point between the light and the dark. It's quite a spiritual time of year in that sense. This is gate 46. It's in the G center. It's pointing downwards to its harmonic gate, the gate of saying yes, the gate of commitment. That's the 29th gate in the sacral center. Together they form the channel of discovery, a design of succeeding where others fail or failing where others succeed. So the 46th gate, the determination of the self, it's part of what's called the cross of the vessel of love, and it is the love of the body or not. Above the lines, it says, good fortune that may be perceived as the result of serendipity, but derives from efforts and dedication. There is some effort and dedication involved in being completely in a process. And it's only by being in a process completely that the potential of gate 46 can be fulfilled. We know that the first line of a hexagram always gives us the essence of the hexagram, its true meaning. The first line of the 46th hexagram is called being discovered. And it says dedication in obscurity that is unexpectedly discovered, art for art's sake. And this tells us something fundamental about the nature of the 46th gate. And that is that there is probably no other gate more demanding of the existential than the 46th gate, even more so than the individuality circuitry, all of which is centered in the now, and especially the 20th gate, which is often considered to be the gate, the existential gate. But everything about the potential for success, as we see it through this 46th gate, is about being totally immersed in a process. And you'll see that as we go through all of the lines. Everything about the potential for success comes through this, and this is abstract circuitry. It's all about experience. It's not about patterns that repeat and repeat. And it's not about being in that individuality of being, well, it is being in the now, but doing your thing for you just because it happens to be your thing and you're really passionate about it. And but it's not got that cycles feeling to it. It's neither experiment nor experience in individuality. But in 46 here, we've got the abstract circuitry, which is all about the cycles, beginnings, middles, and ends. So real success comes after the experience. This is something that we learn in this abstract circuitry. We've not long come out of the 64-47 transit, where we had the confusion of what was the experience all about, feeding down into the 47 of actually being able to make sense of it. This is how the abstract process works, but it's not during the experience that you make sense of it. You cannot know what the lesson is until afterwards. You can't make sense of it until later, when all of the information is in. It's, remember, has that sense of the wave. It's very much connected to the emotional wave because the abstract circuitry goes through the solar plexus. And so with the wave, when it's running, and the reason why you weight your wave if you're emotionally defined is all of the information that comes through over time as you go through the wave. There's never one point that holds all of the information. And it's the whole same with all of the experiential way and the abstract process. You cannot make sense of it until all the information is in, and that takes time. If you try to make sense of it at the beginning, you get very confused and you don't really get any sense of what it is that you're trying to learn about, or where the lesson possibly could be. If you keep mithering away at the finding the sense in the experience, then really doing that instead of actually being in the experience, then you lose the potential of what you could bring to that process, or what that process could bring to you. And the highest potential of that is actually very mystical. At a spiritual level, this is a recognition that the body is the life. And that in honoring the body, in accepting one's choicelessness, we can enter into all our experiences completely as ourselves. The 46th gate is the determination of the self to be in the right place at the right time and to be discovered. How do you ensure that you're in the right place at the right time? I bet you can't guess. Through following strategy and inner authority, or environmental authority, depending how you are configured. This is what is operating correctly. And if you're a 46, then being totally immersed in the process itself. This is what provides the opportunity for discovery. It's going through each life situation as deeply as you can, in order that later on, in reflection, it can be brought to the whole once it has been reflected upon, because this channel feeds up the other side of this channel, going upwards towards the throat, where we find expression. Going up there is the 1333. So the 13 is the listener. So it's listening to all the secrets and the stories about the experiences. And then the 33 goes into retreat. It has its privacy, and in that privacy, it can allow a little bit more assimilation. Everything can settle. It can really think about what it has experienced, what it's heard, where it's been, and it can express it to the collective for the benefit of everybody. So that's when it is brought out to the whole. And this is the way that this experiential circuit works. So very beautiful thing. The whole body graph is just so extraordinary, isn't it? But the business we have, this is the design of failing where others succeed, or succeeding where others fail. So what's that really? What does that mean? Okay, so this is pointing to whether or not you can be completely in a process. Well, and a lot of that is down to how you get into the process. If you get into a process correctly, then you're going to succeed, where others who may not have got into the process correctly are going to fail. If you go into it incorrectly, then you're going to fail, where people who got into it are going to, in a correct way, are going to succeed. There is that's an element of how that plays out. Right? It's pointing to whether or not you can really immerse yourself in whatever the experience is, whatever that process is. And you can end up calling it good fortune or good luck. It only seems that way because it's really all down to correctness. It is the 46th gate operating correctly within a being who is operating correctly. It is simply being in the process, not for something or because of something, because it doesn't yet know. It cannot yet know. And in the language of the abstract, it will not make sense until we are past the process of pushing upward into the kingdom of heaven, you could say. The incredible potential through the determination of the self to succeed, and to succeed at the most spiritual level. Success at the spiritual level within this context is the recognition that life itself is simply an extension of the principle of the 46 to be awake. No, it is simply an extension of that being immersed in the Maya totally. And but through that immersion, then there's the possibility for transcendence. This is the real potential of gate 46. It brings us the potential, the possibility maybe of transcendence. We've been on quite a journey these last 3 weeks, with the 4 transits that we've been through. It's been quite tough in many ways, and I've heard I've had many comments from people telling me about their journey through these last 4 gates. We started off with denial and aloneness, and that led to confusion. We moved into oppression, and then that took us into friction and conflict with its partner gate in crisis. So it's been quite an interesting journey these last few weeks. So here is a small breather. It's a respite where we can just be fully in whatever is happening, simply because here is where we happen to be. The love of the body or not, or the potential or not. And this is human design. Design, when you look at it, is the form. We have those 2 sides to all of our activations, and we have the personality and we have the design. We have the mind and the body. So design is the form, design is the body. And we spend so much time up in our heads. One of our biggest lessons is that of not making decisions from our head. The transit through the 46 is an opportunity to focus on the body, maybe to love the body, your body specifically, and you could focus on someone else's if you like, but this is really about you. It's about your experience in the here and now. So often we don't like our bodies. Ra said, didn't he, that he was so shocked when he started talking to people and he found out how many people didn't love themselves. And sort of an extension of that is how many people don't love their bodies. How many people are invested, are seriously invested in changing their body because of an ideal that their mind subscribes to. And in one of the lines you'll hear, I'll say it now, just in case you don't actually go through the lines with me, but one of the things there, it's instantly gone out of my head. But it was so interesting as well. Now you're going to have to listen to the lines to hear what I was going to say. It might come back to me. It'll be a prisoner moment. It'll suddenly come back to me. Hold on, just give me a second. We're talking about the body and loving the body and how important it is to love your body and honor your body and the amount of money we spend in changing our body. That's it. The vegetarian, I got there eventually. Ra said that it was really not possible to be a lifelong vegetarian correctly, especially if you're a generator, because it's all about being in the moment. It's responding in the moment to what's in front of you. And so if you take a stand and say, I'm vegetarian, he said that's coming from the mind. It's an intellectual position. Your body might not want that at all. But because you've made the decision from your mind, then everything that happens up in the mind, we have to be sure, we have to hold on to our opinions. We're not allowed to change our mind. All of that is head and ajna nonsense that we go through and put ourselves through, where our body might very well be requiring some other kind of nutrition, but we don't allow it. And he said then that really that there isn't, I don't say how to say it. It's not that it's not, well, he said that there are no vegetarian generators, that he specifically said generators. I don't see why it wouldn't be any of the other types either. But it's a moment-to-moment response when you're a generator. A meal comes in front of you, it's do you like it, do you don't like it? Are you going to put it in your body or you're not going to put it in your body? It's, it's not a question of limiting yourself. Yeah. sounded much better in my head. Okay, the form. We are an experiment of consciousness in form. It's back to the form again. Is our form viable? Is it a suitable vehicle for consciousness to experience life from? And our forms are incredible, incredible things. All of the different processes that are taking place every moment of every day. And yet our minds are constantly co-opting the whole life. So we can feel as though we have no connection at all to what's going on in our body. And if we have an unconscious definition, if we have a decision-making process that is in the body, as the majority do, maybe we're emotional or we're splenic or we're generators, then that can be really hard because you have to be a little bit more conscious about your decision-making. If you are an unconscious definition. And by that, I mean that you might have a channel that gives you, like for me, for example, I have the 3740, so I have definition in my chart. But if I separate the black and the red out, then I don't, because the 40 is conscious and the 37 is unconscious. And so I don't really have a conscious definition. I don't really know about my solar plexus. I don't really have that connection that lights up my ego, not when I look at it in that sense. So that's what I mean by being unconsciously defined. And then factor in maybe having an open G center. It can be very hard to feel as though you have any solid ground under your feet because there's nothing about yourself that you feel you can rely on. And of course, you're not designed to have a fixed sense of your own identity in that way, which doesn't mean that it's always a very comfortable feeling, but it's just something that one has to get used to. Well, it can be very hard to love yourself when you don't actually know who you are. And that's part of the journey for an open G, of course. Doesn't mean you're broken, of course, there's nothing broken. We're all perfectly designed. But we're here to have a fluidity about our identity when we have an open G center. We are here to be different people depending on who we're with and who is conditioning us. I say us because I've got an open G. Part of the mechanic, When you look at the global cycles, gate 46 is one of the locks of the background frequency. It is one of the lenses through which the global experience is seen. And it is called the temple when you look at it in that context. So what is your experience of your own temple? For the last 400 years, since the last cycle change, our temple has been experienced through the gate 40. This has been the key that fits into the lock of our temple, and gate 40 is the love of work. The temple has become our office or our place of work. So many people, working harder and longer these days than they ever have before. All of those wonderful labor-saving devices that we used to see advertised on Tomorrow's World back in the day, they don't seem to have saved much labor from where I'm standing. The temple needs reclaiming. In the new era that is being ushered in 2027, gate 59 will be the key to the lock of the temple, the gate of sexuality. And we begin the new cycle in the 6th line, the one night stand, which in human design terms is about the 6th line searching for perfection, for that one perfect night with their soulmate. This is what the temple door will open for, the soulmate. And I wonder sometimes whether this is an opportunity for us to be our own soulmate, to fall in love with ourselves. And isn't this really the goal of human design anyway? To love ourselves? Okay, we can see here opposite the 46 is gate 25. This is the grounding for the love of the body, for the gate of the determination of the self, to find the kingdom of heaven through surrendering to the experience in the now. So it's gate 25, which is, of course, another G center gate, as all the vessel of love gates are in the G center. It's the gate of innocence. It's the gate of the spirit of the self. It's the gate of unconditional love. This is the gate in the G center that is also in the centering circuit. And it also has a mysticality about it. It's part of the mystical way. And if you think about centering, the centering circuit, if you were to describe someone who was centered, you might say that they were grounded. So it feels like quite a grounded sort of description in that sense. It brings that sense of grounding to the 46. So gate 25 is the potential to love existence without discrimination. Where a flower can be loved as profoundly as your own child. To be able to love and honor your temple, perhaps, and to recognize that that is a possibility for everybody. So this is where we are for the next few days. We have the love of the body and unconditional love, innocence, those two forces coming through. So I would be very interested to know what your experience is of these gates or these lines as we go through them. And we have an interesting time ahead. So I sort of want to say, enjoy this time, these 6 lines of gate 46, because after this point, for the remainder of the quarter of duality, we are moving through all of the splenic gates. And all of the splenic gates carry a fear, because the spleen or the splenic center is an awareness center, and all of the awareness centers have either a fear or an anxiety or a nervousness, depending on which center we're talking about. So the splenic center is our primal awareness. It's the one that our 5-centered ancestors would have had. And their life, the cave dwellers, hunting mammoths on the plains and dodging saber-toothed tigers. And would they find a nice warm, dry cave, and who was going to come and attack them from other tribes? All of that, there was a heightened alertness and a heightened sense of body awareness and body intelligence. And with that came a fear. And the fears are there to keep us safe and to help us survive. So they're not bad. It's not that we're meant to be frightened all the time if we've got these splenic gates. But there is that sort of feeling that can come through when they're activated, that some feelings of fear may be coming through into our experience. So, I mean, that's not for another six lines yet, but yeah, enjoy this time in the love of the body, the determination of the self to push upward to the kingdom of heaven, to find transcendence, the possibility of transcendence in this life. So thank you very much for joining me for this little look at gate 46. Please do join me for the other gates, for the other lines as we work through this, if that is correct for you. And I will be back anyway in 6 days or so for gate 18. So until then, thank you very much once again for joining me, and take care and go gently.